Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where I talk about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Notorious as well as the latest episode of the Blacklist. Like always, when I'm talking about multiple TV shows, if you look in the description down below, I have the time slots listed when I start talking about each specific show, just in case it's like I'm talking about something you really don't care about, and what you might care about is later on in the episode, so you know where to skip to hear me talking about the specific show you really only care about listening to. So, like always, just kind of adding that tidbit of information there because I don't always include it. So I figured I might as well, start including it. I'm going to do it a lot more. I said I was only going to do it for a little while, but every once in a while I'll probably kind of remind you just in case it's like, oh, this happens to be your first one. So, but now starting off with this week's episode of Notorious, a crazy episode. We end up getting a little bit more information. I mean, obviously, like the last episode kind of left us like, wait, what's going on here? I was asking for it and I got my answer. We found out who Julia's mentor is, and that is the lady she was talking to, Dana, the lady that apparently she hasn't talked to in a while. Now, her and Dana have a very interesting relationship, besides just being kind of mentor-student type of thing. The fact of the matter is Dana's kind of a disgraced newscaster because basically she made up some story and it just kind of blew up her face. Julia basically kind of ratted her out. In Julia's words, it's like, I took you down so you wouldn't take me down along with you. And so basically Dana's kind of on the outs. She can't get a job anywhere just because like she's completely disgraced and everything. But that's why I was kind of like, okay, Julia, I know we haven't talked in a while, so it's like, obviously it showed you the situation being very dire for her to call in, Julia. I mean, mainly it was just to get towards Jake because it's like Jake's such a good lawyer and everything. Well, we ended up finding out that there is a new murder case on that we're kind of getting involved in. Basically, there's a dude named Johnny. Now, Johnny is supposedly have been shot by this girl, Maya. Now, Maya is Dana's daughter. But interestingly enough, like, there's been a strain on the relationship for the past couple years. Now, we don't know if it's just allocated to that past couple years, or was it more to that? Was it the fact that, because a big part of their relationship kind of fell apart because of the whole Dana's in the situation of being like, well, she kind of was sulking in the fact as of what Julia did to her. The fact is that she lost her job and everything. She kind of sulked, so she wasn't in a motherly position. So in that time period, Julia was more of a mother to Maya. She looked after her, took care of her during that whole situation. So Maya and Dana kind of have like a strenuous relationship, to say the very least. But basically, there's gun residue found on Maya's hands, and it's like, oh, she must be the killer. Everyone's pointing it towards her as like she's the killer. Her two other roommates, because basically her, Johnny, and this other two roommates were all living together in this one place. Because Dana kind of invited them to live over and everything. Like, basically, Dana was trying to be cool with her friends and everything because she was trying to get back into Maya's life. But like I said, whether that's because it's like over the past couple years or whether the relationship always strenuous at the beginning, we really don't know. But, it seems more so than anything, at the very least, their biggest problems are the most recent years of just her not being there and Julia being there for her. So for her, it's okay having Julia there, but she doesn't like the fact that her mom's all up in her business, especially because her mom went through her journal and everything without her permission. Like, to me, I don't know, like, it's weird. Like, I guess because I've never been in that situation where I've kept stuff. Because if there's anything, I always keep stuff in my head. I never write anything down. So if there's anything personal, I always keep it in my head. But, she wrote it in a journal. Obviously, it's for therapeutic reasons because her therapist was kind of like, hey, you write it in a book and then you burn it. So basically, she talked about the fact that she's going to kill Johnny. Her mom read that, kind of told Jake and Julia about it. So it turned into the whole thing. Like, Maya got super pissed about it. It's like, you're invading my privacy. Like, personally, I was like, I don't think that's big of a deal. She read your journal. It's not like she hacked into your bank account and stole all your money. It's like, I get it, invasion of privacy. Like, it's like, okay, where do you stop? It's like, it starts there, and where's the finish line when it comes to like, how far someone would go. But to me, it's like, she's your mom and everything. And even Julia, like, even though they have their like history and everything, Julia was like, cut your mom some slack. She cares about you. She's trying to be there for you and everything. So, but like I said, to me, I don't look at it as that big of a deal, but that's just me. The case it's just as complicated as the whole Sarah murder case, which I'll kind of get to my thoughts and everything later on about that. I'm going to talk a little bit about that a little bit later on, but the fact that as we end up finding out that complicates things a little bit more is that Johnny and Maya are together. So it's like, okay, so why would I kill Johnny? Yeah, we had our problems and everything. We fought a little bit, but more so than anything, we loved each other. I mean, well, in particular, I love him, which is kind of what started the fight that they had anyways, because she said, I love you, and he didn't really give her a response. But, Johnny was her boyfriend. Then things get even more complicated because you find out actually Dana, her mom, actually slept with a boyfriend like a month ago or something like that. But the thing is, she didn't know that Maya and Johnny were dating because, obviously Maya's not going to tell her anything because they're on the outs and they don't have that type of relationship and stuff like that. There's this whole situation with basically they were recorded and everything, and then the video got sent to Julia. Well, more specifically, Luis, Megan tell Julia to show her and everything. And basically, Julia uses it as leverage and saying like, hey, come on my show and I won't put that up on TV. And then Jake was like, oh, you were never going to put it up, where you? She's like, no, because obviously she cares about Maya, so she wouldn't do that because she knows how much that would hurt Maya. She just wanted kind of leverage to kind of get Dana on her show and everything. But then you have Luis kind of going behind her back and it's like, nope, we're going to play the video, even going as far as telling Julia's boss about it, because she's like, how do you know about it? And it's like, Luis told him, and it's like they played a video. Dana is pissed. She gets super pissed at Julia. It's like, how could you do this to me? This is all, I get that you don't like me, but I was there for you. I'm the reason why you're in this position. I was there for you. I helped basically make your career what it is today. And it's like, how could you betray me like this? And Julia in turn gets super pissed at Luis. To me, because Luis is going as far as saying, like, the fact of the matter is it pertains to the story and everything like that. You have to be unbiased and everything. Your only reason why you're acting like this is because there's emotional connection and everything like that to it, which to me I call hypocrisy there, because it's like literally the exact same situation, obviously some differences between the whole situation with Luis and that video of that soldier getting killed. It's like you asked Julia not to play that tape and she did. You got super pissed, and Julia asked you not to play this tape, yet you went ahead and did it anyway. Mainly like Julia's like, because you have a vendetta against Dana, because for her it's like Dana's BS caused women in the news business to kind of take a step back. It's kind of like, oh, basically instead of Luis getting that job replacing her, it was a man, and basically it took a while for another woman to kind of be put in that position. So it's kind of like, from a feminist standpoint, it's like, screw Dana. She screwed over women. It's like we could have taken. She basically set women a step back in like Luis's eyes, which I see the argument there. But that was her personal vendetta against her, and that's the main reason why she played the video. Like yes, I get it because it is part of the whole story. So it's like. If the circumstances were different, if it was someone that was unrelated to Julia, would she have been as hesitant to play the video? Like, she would have been able to look at it as more objective, and being a part of the news, you have to be very, objective, which we know that's not true. Like, I mean, that's what it's supposed to be, but, everyone is biased in some shape or form. You try to give the opinion, like, because especially in this show where it's like you can warp people's, warp the perspective and kind of shift people's thoughts and feelings about a certain thing. So it's kind of like, even more so in this show, that outlet of just kind of being very, unbiased, it's kind of like hi, really type of moment. Kind of, you have to laugh and scoff at it. But back to it, it's like the hypocrisy of it, because it's like the reason why Luis didn't want Julia to play the video was because, like, the video with the soldier and everything, was because of how much it had emotional connection to her, because she had someone that she cared about in a similar situation. And you have a situation about Julia being in a situation about someone she cares about not getting hurt by the video. So it's kind of like you shouldn't have done that. It's like literally the same situation. I don't get why Julia didn't throw that in her face. Like, to me, that's the best defense. But again, I guess it's like, Julia, no matter how heated the situation wasn't in that. Because to me, when you get heated, you tend to throw everything you've got just to kind of tear someone down because you're so upset and everything. So I'm surprised she didn't throw that in her face, but I guess that kind of shows you that she was holding back a little bit. I don't know. Just, to me, that was an interesting thing that she didn't actually throw that back in Luis's face, but I guess it would have been too much of a low blow. But to me, it's the same circumstances. Like I said, I get it. It does pertain to the story, because in Luis's case, it wasn't actually the person directly involved. It was kind of a situation where it's like she could see the person that she cared about in that situation, and it just reminded her of it. But still, it just, and even Julia kind of put up a very good point. The fact is, if she makes deals with people all the time to be on the show, and it's if she doesn't hold up her side of the bargain, people back out of the show, and they're like, oh, Julia can't keep her word, so we're not going to be on her show and everything. So from that standpoint, and also from a business standpoint, it makes sense too, just to kind of go with it. But eventually down the episode, they ended up making up. I'm surprised. I was thinking like, okay, maybe this kind of gets ratified. Because the whole Louise situation happened at the end of that particular episode, so this kind of happened in the middle of it, so there was more time for them to forgive each other. They're like, basically, sorry, Louis is like, I shouldn't have gone behind your back. Julia's like, the reason why I didn't tell you because I knew you would play it, but you'd be upset because I made that deal with Dana, but I still should have came to you and everything. So it's like they made up and everything. That's good. But I'm surprised that it ended up turning into like a much longer thing. But it seems like, because basically they don't want to end up like Julia and Dana are, where they're on the outs. I mean, Julia assures her like, we will never end up like that. So I mean, you never know. But the case continues, besides all that, even with the Dana sex tape thing, continues to get even more confusing when you find out it's like, oh yeah, apparently the other 3 roommates were having sex and everything. So like her other 2 roommates plus her boyfriend Johnny. So not only was he having sex with her mom, he was also having sex with the other 2 roommates. It's just kind of like, okay, what was going on in that whole situation? It's like, because to me, like, I didn't trust the other 2 roommates, who, interestingly enough, I don't remember his name, but there's the girl, the actress, her name is Penny Mitchell. There's so many connections in my head right there. Okay, she was in the first season of Hemlock Grove. She played Letha, Roman's cousin. Okay, she was on the Vampire Diaries. She was like a witchy girl, part of the Gemini Coven. She had a crush on Tyler, obviously, and her character died. Spoiler alert. Her twin brother, that actor, is one of the roommates. I know it was like a long string. I just had to kind of piece that together really quickly before I said anything. But yeah, I know I don't remember his name, but I think her character's name was Olivia in the TV show. I'm pretty sure. Interestingly enough, because Famke Janssen, who played her aunt in Hemlock Grove, is also named Olivia. Just the whole thing. Also, side note, she's Australian too. Now, just because since I'm on that whole subject and everything. But nevertheless, but yeah, like, they were too synchronized with their stories, because they made it kind of side by side, being like, oh yeah, cut to him explaining things to, was it Ella, and then her explaining things to Bradley, just cutting back and forth, and it seemed like their stories were a little too, like, put together and everything like that. And then things, once again, taking the escalate even further, because I was wondering how Ray J was going to play in this episode. I saw his name, I was like, oh. So personally, I was like, okay, so it's going to be like a P. Diddy Combs situation where he just popped up as like a cameo, because it's like, yo, he's tight with Luis and everything. Like, oh yeah, me and Puff Daddy just going to hang out and everything. So I was thinking like that. Nope, he actually pertains to the case, because the gun used in the murder is actually his. I was like, wait, what? Literally everyone across the board had that reaction. Like, wait, what? The gun is Ray J's? Wait, what? Even Ella's going in, like, oh, what's going on? Like, yeah, Ray J's talking about the case. It's like, what's his connection to it? Oh yeah, the gun was Ray J's. And Ella's looking at him like, and then Jake's like, yeah. So it's kind of like, wait, what? It's funny, weird, and just awesome at the same time. And just him talking everything, be like, yo, they stole this, and this from me. And then, Ella pieced it together. It's like, oh, they've been robbing people, specifically celebrity homes and stuff like that, because there was a lot of celebrity homes, not just Ray J's that was hijacked, but a lot of stuff. And so they pieced it together. It's like, oh, these guys are thieves. And then it came down to it, like, they all got arrested. Jake talked to Maya, but Maya's like, no, I'm not going to turn on them. The other 2, they're my family. I'd never sell them out, which quickly backfired on her when those 2 sold her out and was like, oh yeah, she totally killed Johnny. It's like, wait, what? Oh, what happened to that whole family thing? Well, that sucks. Which leads to Dana being super pissed at Julia because of the whole situation as well, because still pissed about the whole tape situation. Because, like, basically none of this would have happened if Julia had never played the tape, which Jake is pissed at her too, which she puts up some valid points. It's like, honestly, you could have stopped him. Like, even if it was your boss or Luis, you could have stopped him. You could have muted Luis. You could have pulled the plug. You could have just told your boss to shove it. But the fact of the matter is you didn't. So your integrity wasn't fully intact in it. It's like, I get it, you're apologizing, you really care about Maya and everything, but if you really did, if you could push aside who you are, you know, a news producer, you would have stopped it in some shape or form. And it's like I said, it's give and take, because it's like you see the situation Julia was in, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, arguably she could have done something. She should have done something, because like she stood up to her boss before. But I mean, there's been decisions made. I mean, granted, the whole situation with Jake getting arrested, that wasn't her choice. He kind of mustered in it and pushed himself aside and be like, okay, you do this and that. I mean, granted, Julia's kind of done that before, where she was kind of threatening to quit. But I guess you wait for your right circumstance. It's kind of like, hey, you wait to the right moment to kind of throw that chip out there. But it's like in a situation like this, especially because it pertains to someone that you care about, Maya, then that'll be the time to kind of cash in a chip like that. But it's just, I don't know. It's a messed up situation. Like, so, you know, Jake, because she made the promise to Jake that she wouldn't air it too. So now things are just crappy across the board. And it's just very interesting case. I'm saying, like, a very amazing turn of events. You even got the last shot of the episode being like, we see the gun being put into a safety deposit box. It's like, yo, who is a real killer and all of this? It does seem, because I was bringing it up earlier, I brought it up, the whole Sarah murder case. So it seems like that might be done, because there was like no mention of it in this episode. So it seems like that main overall story case is being replaced by this one. So what they did with the whole Sarah case being like, oh, that's part of the story, while also dealing with a new thing, episode to episode type of thing. So it seems like this is kind of be that similar situation, because the whole Sarah and Oscar situation was like the big thing of the whole first episode, and then her murder like was kind of back and forth in every other preceding episode. So it seems like they might be repeating that in this episode. So I'm very curious to see, like, you know, whether that Sarah's case situation is 100% settled. Like, is the whole Oscar and Alan thing being settled? Like, because last thing we know is, like, found out last episode was obviously that he was arrested and everything. So whether we see more of that in the future or not, I don't know. But the truth of the matter is, there's a lot going on with these, like, I can't even call them kids because they're young adults. They're literally about my age, guys. Maya's like 22 or whatever, right? So it's like, obviously there is a lot that are hiding about the whole situation. It's like, did Maya know about that whole situation? Was she actually on the outs about this whole situation? Was it like, was it, because it makes it seem like, I think more so than anything, Maya wasn't necessarily 100% down for it, but it's just kind of like, yo, these are people I care about. This is my family. This is my boyfriend. So I'm going to go along with it. She was more so a follower than just kind of being a big part of it. She was just kind of like tagging along, which obviously maybe at some point she eventually to decide like, oh, I'm going to be a part of this. I'm going to take my place in all this too. I don't know, like, you know, but it's definitely a lot more going on to it. I'm very interested to see where this goes. Just all the relationships. Like I said, I can't get over it. As I brought it up multiple times before. It's like, oh, finding out about Julia's past, and maybe we get to see a little bit more of that kind of develop now that, you know, Dana's kind of popped up, and so a little bit more of Julia's past is going to play a part in this. So, and now moving on to this week's episode of The Blacklist, where at first we have Kirk kind of making a bloody exit from the hospital. A lot of people dying. But surprisingly, well, not too surprisingly, you have like Tom going all like Rambo-ish and just going after. It's like, oh, you won't take my wife. Give me back my wife. I don't know what that is me referencing or trying to imitate me saying and doing it like that. But nevertheless, going after them. But, you know, because, you know, Kirk is still under belief. It's like, oh, Liz is definitely my daughter. Oh, this whole thing is like a gigantic conspiracy. Reddington's lying to, like, her, to me and everything. But then, you know, he ends up getting confirmation from the guy there doing the blood test and everything. It's like, oh, she really isn't my daughter. Even pointing a gun to him was like, look me in the eyes and tell me Masha is not my daughter. And then so, you know, the lady that works for him that kind of has a relationship with him tells him, like, she's not your daughter. Which, surprisingly enough, like, you find out, like, I mean, you could already tell that she didn't like Liz from the very beginning, but you kind of understand a little bit more as to why she really doesn't like Liz. I mean, obviously, it's like, oh, like, she brought up last episode, like, oh, we had everything, and then, like, the moment she came into the picture and everything, it kind of changed and ruined everything. In particular, ruined Kirk, because she blames Liz for Kirk being the way he is. The fact is, all the nasty and the very evil things he's done, it's been because of his belief that Liz was his daughter, so he tried everything he could to track her down, going through any means. He turned into a very bad man just because he thought he was reclaiming his daughter and everything. Because Sebastian had brought it up before. The fact is that Kirk is actually a very good guy, and you're like, psh, what? No, he's not. You're so full of crap. But it's like, no, when you look at this, you're kind of like, and you hear it from her perspective too. It's like, no, he was actually a nice guy. I mean, that's probably why she actually like has feelings for him. Was probably even go as far as saying probably in love with him and everything. Was because he actually was a good guy, but he became like this because he was so obsessed with getting his little girl back. It's just because he thought he had lost her and everything. So it's kind of understandable why things kind of went the way that they did. Granted, I don't know whether she's dead or not, because like basically Liz, they called up to him and everything, and Liz is like, okay, you're arrested. She's like, I'm not, I'm not, and she jumped off the side and landed in the water. Now they never said anything about it later in the episode about like, oh, we found her body or anything like that, or we couldn't find her. So the fact is they didn't say anything makes me think that she did die. I guess in her mind she'd rather die than like go get arrested or go to jail. Because it's like, I guess in her mind it was like Kirk is as good as dead in her mind. So it's kind of like, I guess if she dies she can somehow be with him, maybe, or maybe she did survive and they just didn't bother going over the fact that she got away. So I don't know, because it seemed like I said, they never brought it up again. So I guess we'll really have to wait to find out whether she is or not. I'm kind of leaning more towards the fact that she is dead, because it's like they didn't say anything about her like not finding a body or anything like that. So it was like, them not saying that makes me think that she did die. So that really sucks, especially like I said, if she did do it because she thought she could be with Kirk that way. We do end up finding out that this whole situation, because initially you kind of have the same thought process as the FBI, thinking like, oh, Reddington took that lady because it's like, oh, he doesn't want to he wants to kill the one person that could cure Kirk. But then it was kind of like, okay, wait, especially because it's like he knows, everyone now everyone knows, it's like, oh yeah, Liz isn't his daughter, so he wouldn't be able to cure her. Even Agnes wouldn't be able to. And then Reddington is there actually, because like Reddington decides, he's like, okay, to give me Liz and I'll give you me instead. And Dembe's like, don't do this. No matter what you do or say, he will kill you. But Reddington is willing to take the risk because it's like, it's for Liz. And so basically the entire time he's injecting Reddington with stuff. It's kind of like a combination of like, there's stuff that kind of induces pain and there's something to kind of relieve it. So he starts asking him all these questions about because he obviously blames Reddington for ruining his life, but Reddington kind of brings up something that Liz herself kind of found out, and the fact is her mom was obviously a spy, a KGB spy, and the fact of the matter is her being with Reddington was work related. Her job was kind of to seduce Reddington and get closer to him. So it's not like he actively went out of his way to go after her. She kind of went after him as part of the job. He even kind of alludes like, hey, maybe that's the same thing that happened to Kirk too, that they were both kind of a mission for her, which, Kirk still believes that even when it's all said and done. Like, the fact is, she didn't show what she wanted him to see. Like, he saw the real her, because he's like, he believes strongly that she didn't love him, that wasn't fake. Because the Reddington also points out, because it's like, the reason why Kirk was so sure that Masha was his, that Liz was his, was because she showed him the test results. But it's like, she was a professional liar. She let you see what she wanted you to see, and that's to make you think Liz was actually your daughter and everything. So that's kind of how this was all started. Like, because that's why he was so adamantly sure. Because I brought that up before. It's like, obviously, like, he was there in your life. Reddington is not even denying that either. He was there in her life on and off. So it's kind of like, for him to think that was his child, I was thinking like, okay, she, obviously she got pregnant and everything and then gave birth, and it was just like, okay, yeah, I assume you're the dad. So like, I would, maybe the point I'm trying to say is like, there was leeway to be like, okay, he might be her dad, Because I also threw out, it's like, maybe he was just married to her mom. That's not being disputed, but what could be disputed is whether he's actually her father or not. It turns out he's not. So that's why he keeps asking Reddington, is she your daughter? Which Reddington keeps saying, like, it doesn't matter. Why does that matter? It doesn't change anything. It's like, whether I'm her dad or not doesn't change anything. She grew up under your care at first. She thought you raised her like she was your daughter. Then afterwards, after it was all said and done, she went to Sam, who raised her like his daughter. So it's like, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. But Kirk kept pushing it, and he's like, okay. And he's like, what do you want me to say? He's like, yes, I'm Liz's dad. Now, I don't know, because that was a suspicion from the very beginning, but that was kind of like, I can't remember, because that was the whole thing about the fact is, because Reddington has all these like burn marks on his back, from when the fire hit our house and everything. So it's like, that was kind of brought up before, because Liz has asked him before, it's like, are you my dad? And he said, vaguely remember him saying like, no, I'm not your dad. Which I think because he said himself, he's like, I never lied to you, Liz. So and he wasn't lying about the Kirk situation. So like I said, there's a lot of stuff he's not telling her, obviously, about her past and everything. But obviously, it's not like. So I'm thinking maybe he isn't lying. Maybe he told a lie then and was like, yeah, I'm her father, just because it was the answer. No matter what he said, Kirk wouldn't believe him. If he said no, Kirk really wouldn't believe him. So I guess it's like, give him the answer that Kirk wanted to hear, I guess, needed to hear or whatever. So, I mean, because I brought it up, the fact is, like, I had my suspicions. It's like Kirk isn't lying, he's telling that, like, there's lies and truths on every side. And it's like, for Kirk, he was telling the truth that he thought was the truth. It was all a lie, but he was going on, all his actions were based around the fact that he thought Liz really was his little girl, so. But it led to an interesting thing, because Reddington obviously brings, the lady, what's her name, Lucille Box, because that's what the whole Shaw angle was about. Because it's like, because the last episode kind of made it seem like, oh, maybe he was the one that was sick, but it was like, no, it was definitely connected to Kirk and everything. And this whole thing was about a cure and everything. And I was like, she was the perfect test up of being like, okay, yeah, like she kind of survived. I mean, because everyone, even Sebastian, thought she was dead and everything, but it's like, nope, she's here, and she's an example of that. The fact is that this whole thing can work for you. So, initially, Kirk kind of puts it out there. He was like, because Reddington's like, we can both live or we can both die. It's up to you to decide. And he was like, and Kirk was basically under the mind. He's like, I would rather, if living meant I had to live on with you, then we might as well both die then. So he wasn't going to take, because like no matter what the history is, no matter what it is that that Liz's mom was kind of a fake, that she was planted, that the whole thing, their whole relationship was fake or whatnot, Liz isn't his daughter, doesn't change the fact that in his eyes, Reddington ruined everything, took the woman he loved away from him, took his daughter away from him, especially because the whole thing is around the fact is that Masha committed suicide. Because like everyone, not Masha, her mom, Liz's mom, committed suicide. That basically she just one day walked into the sea and never came back. So that's still kind of up in the air, like what, because Kirk doesn't actually believe that she's dead, and who knows. But the fact of the matter is, Kirk said, like, there's nothing you can do or say that will make me not decide to kill you. But Reddington whispers something in his ear. Whatever it was, it changed Kirk's mind in an instant, to the point he let Reddington go and let Reddington cure him. Because that's the question, though. Because the FBI is asking that too. Why would Reddington go that far to find a cure? Because at first he was saying like, okay, in the current situation, it makes sense. He's like, okay, I'm trying to get you cured so that, you can save my life. Meaning as like, now you can interpret that multiple ways, being as in save my life as not killing me right now, or meaning there's something else to it. Maybe Reddington is sick, or just, that could have been referencing to something else, something bad that's on the way. I don't know. But the moment he did that, like, Kirk just took the cure and left, because the thing is, it would have been so much easier just to kill Kirk. At any point, he could have just put a bullet in Kirk, because even Liz asked him later, he's like, Kirk is going, just like, dead, and he's like, no, go on. So it's kind of like, you could have killed Kirk. It would have been easier. You kill people just because it's like you don't want to deal with the hassle later on, but it's like with someone like Kirk, you just let him live. Why go this trouble of curing him? It has to do with whatever it is that he told Kirk. Maybe it deals with Liz's mom or something. Maybe, I don't know what it is. Like, the fact of the matter is, you don't know, because Reddington has so many damn secrets. And I'm sure there are only like 2 people in the world that probably know his secret. Well, 3 now, whatever it is, that something he told Kirk. I'm sure Dembe knows a lot, and I'm sure Kate knows a lot. That's the whole reason why, wanting her dead. But I'll get to that in a little bit. But just that whole situation, just like finding out what Reddington said to him, plus finding out whether, what he said was true or not. Is he Liz's dad? I'm leaning, because because to me that's too obvious. Because that was the whole point. Like, it's like you from the very beginning thought that's what the direction it was going to take. It's like, oh, obviously he's got to be listed. Oh, he's not listed. That is he lying? Like I said, bringing it back, he promised he never lied to Liz. So maybe he was lying to Kirk. Maybe he really isn't her dad. Because there was a whole point where Liz was kind of like, you told me that I shot my dad, but I didn't want to believe you. So it's like, she's like, I wish my dad could be here to see this. And she's like, I'm sure he would want to. So it's like, it's hard to say what direction that can really take. I'm very curious to see what kind of information they end up finding out about, like, why Reddington did what he did, because the FBI is definitely going to be investigating that. But another side of this episode was the whole situation with Kate. Initially it seemed like it's hard to say what is up with that guy. Like, the way he makes it sound is like the only reason why he's kind of hiding away is because he's on, like, private property. He's on property that belongs to someone else, so he doesn't want people to kind of find out he's there. Now, part of me was wondering, is like, okay, are you setting him up to actually be a very bad guy and we just don't know it, that he's got some, like, ulterior motive for being there and everything? But because it was even that weird moment where he was like, you know what, he actually let Kate go. He took, like, the shackle off because he was like, I can't kill you and I can't keep you here. He's like, I was just going to let you go. She actually tells him the truth about Reddington. Like, the reason why he kept quiet, because, like, while she was, like, dreaming or whatever, she said Red's name out loud. And the reason why she kind of didn't tell him anything was like, I'm not for my sake, but for yours. Because if Reddington finds out I'm alive, he'd come after me and, you'd kind of get drawn into it and it's everything. It's like, you're doing your own thing, that's fine, but it's like, I can't really be around you because, like, Reddington will, if he finds out I'm still alive, he will search high and low to make sure that I'm dead because, Kate's too much of a danger. I brought it up before. It's like, who can say what Kate is going to do? I mean, especially because she left. I wonder if that was for his own protection, which I'm kind of thinking that might be. So what, is he a bad guy? It's hard to really tell. Like, I mean, I don't know. This might be our last time seeing him because I think the whole point was kind of like, hey, he got Kate back on her feet. The question is, what is Kate going to do? Because the last thing Reddington said to Dembe before, like, Alexander took him, well, before he went to go meet with Kirk was, forgive me for what happened with Kate. It's like, no matter what the circumstances were, he won't forgive himself for that, because that was the whole thing between him and Dembe, because Dembe blames himself because he didn't stop Reddington from doing that to Kate. So the question is, what will Kate do? Because there's, like, is she going to stay hidden, or is she going, like, because I threw out the possibility when I found out that she was still alive. I was like, okay, so you can totally make it, like, because at the end of the episode, you ended up seeing her move and everything. So it's like, okay, maybe Kate comes back for revenge, ends up joining with someone to take him down. I don't know. Because I think no matter what, on some level, she will always care for Reddington. And there's no, because also you have to throw it, there's no way she's going to put a target on Reddington's back, because she knows that I'll put a target on Liz, Tom, and Agnes's back as well. And I doubt she's trying to go down that route. So I guess we'll just kind of have to wait till see. Like, sadly, the show won't be coming back until January 5th, which I ended up watching the previews. I won't really talk about it. It's an interesting development, I'll at the very least, or interesting turn of events, which is, it makes me a little sad because it's like, oh, it's something that affects the main characters, so it's kind of be sad on that part. But I mean, really, we won't really know until we watch the next, when the next episode airs on January 5th to kind of get some answers to what the preview is showing. So, but yeah. Just overall a very crazy episode. And it's just like, it just leaves me bewildered as to whether, Reddington told the truth or not. Like, I mean, and will this be the last time we see Alexander Kirk? Is he going for good? I mean, really, he has no reason. Like I said, this whole situation was about getting Liz, and it was also about saving his life. So both are no longer concerned because Liz isn't his daughter, and he's been healed and everything. So, And another thing was the whole Dr. Shaw situation, because she wanted to make a deal with Reddington. It's like, I continue my research. He made it seem like he wasn't going to work with her because it's like she was actually doing human experiments and everything. So whether he killed her, handed her over to the cops, well, we don't know. We never really saw that. So I'm curious to find out about her post situation. This was her conclusion episode, which reminds me, like, it hasn't been brought up this season, but Mr. Solomon is still out there too. Last time we saw him was after Tom shot him in blood. Like, I keep thinking about that, but I keep forgetting to bring that up. So it's like he's still out there and waiting, coming back to strike at any moment. So I'm just curious, like, the big baddie has been taken care of, Kirk. So it's like, who else is waiting? Very intrigued to see where it all goes. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about in this episode. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.